This week on ANM, the Adventist Development and Relief Agency helps the Azerbaijan and Armenia crises.
Adventist Community Services in the United States provides aid for those affected by natural disasters throughout the North American region.
And later, we sit down with senior scientists for the Geoscience Research Institute to talk about Creation Sabbath.
These stories and more coming up.
Thank you so much for joining us this week.
First in the news, the Seventh-day Adventist Church is assisting victims of the conflict between Armenia and Azerbaijan through its global humanitarian arm, the Adventist Development and Relief Agency, or ADRA.
Immediately after the escalation of hostilities in the Nagorno-Karabakh region on September 27, ADRA offices in both countries mobilized to supply urgently needed food and supplies to civilians who lost their homes or were forced to flee from the fighting.
The recent violence has been described by news agencies as the worst since 1994 in an ongoing conflict over the breakaway region of Nagorno-Karabakh, also known as Artsakh.
Heavy artillery fire and missile attacks have destroyed homes, buildings, and infrastructure in Nagorno-Karabakh and the surrounding areas. According to local authorities, military and civilian casualties have been reported on both sides.
According to Anush Safarian, country director for ADRA in Armenia, tens of thousands of people, mostly women and children, have fled from the front lines to Armenia. The Armenian government has provided shelter for many of them in hotels and hostels, while others are staying with relatives, friends, or strangers.
The day after the fighting broke out, Sarafian visited the conflict zone to assess the needs and discovered that the most pressing need was food. The following day, volunteers from local Adventist churches joined with the ADRA team to pack 100 bags of food.
ADRA staff, along with 3 Adventist pastors, delivered 90 of food packages to families in and around Stepanakert, the largest city in Nagorno-Karabakh, which has suffered extensive shelling. The rest of the food packages were given to displaced people in Goris, the nearest city in Armenia, where many residents of the conflict zone have taken refuge.
As reports of shelling continued despite a Russia-brokered ceasefire that took place Saturday, ADRA staff in both countries are preparing for broader aid distribution.
Food remains the most urgent need. ADRA will distribute 1,200 food packages containing staples such as flour, rice, beans, and pasta to families affected by the conflict. This aid is especially crucial since ADRA is one of very few international non-governmental organizations operating in the crisis region, according to ADRA staff in both countries.
In Armenia, ADRA will identify the neediest displaced families to receive food packets and/or hygiene kits with soap, shampoo, toilet paper, toothbrushes, and other necessities.
In Azerbaijan, the aid will target families who have lost their homes, jobs, or livestock because of the fighting, or who have suffered the death or serious injury of a breadwinner.
ADRA is also preparing for the possibility of extended fighting and the need for continued emergency relief and recovery assistance.
The Adventist Development and Relief Agency, or ADRA, in cooperation with the Cambodia Adventist Mission and local authorities, provided food distribution assistance to 450 families who are affected by the ongoing flooding in Ao Tapang, Tropiang Chorng, Metoek, and Nam Priya communities in the Bakan district, Perset province. Between October 6 and 13, regional tropical storms brought heavy rains to western Cambodia. Heavy rains in the nearby mountains for more than a week caused the main rivers to flood their banks into the surrounding areas, affecting homes and schools, as well as rice and other crops. Many community members were forced to flee to higher ground, taking shelter in local pagodas. Nationally, it is estimated that at least 39,000 households have been affected and as many as 9,000 families have been displaced from their homes. This number is predicted to rise according to authorities in the region. There have also been at least 20 deaths attributed to the floods. ADRA met with the Provincial Committee for Disaster Management on October 13th to gather information and finalize the immediate needs for humanitarian assistance in coordination with other stakeholders. ADRA staff and partners conducted a rapid needs assessment at the local level within its development target areas. The ADRA team identified more than 400 households who have been displaced and severely impacted by the flooding. Between October 15 and 16th, more than 450 families received food assistance kits, including rice, ramen noodles, canned fish, oil, and salt to supplement basic needs.
Wildfires that began small and were relatively contained in Northwest Oregon in late August escalated during the second week of September, creating one of the most destructive events to take place in the state. Hundreds of thousands of acres of land have been destroyed, forcing thousands of residents to evacuate. While 60% of the fire has been contained, many are still displaced from or have completely lost their homes. The damage is still widely and deeply felt. Urgent Needs led Adventist Community Services, or ACS, of the North American Division to mobilize branches from across the country to assist in disaster response. When they arrived in late September, teams from the South Central and Southeastern Conference, who were assigned to manage a warehouse distribution site in Salem, Oregon, along with a team from the Rocky Mountain Conference assigned to do the same in Grants Pass, had difficulty accessing the distribution properties. As they waited, ACS was asked to assist another key site that reached a largely affected population. After a week of being in Oregon, conference teams were able to access their respective warehouses to begin facilitating operations. This effort will be ongoing for the next few months. After setting up operations in Oregon, ACS Disaster Response Director Derek Leah traveled to Napa County in Northern California's Region Bay of the San Francisco Bay Area to access damage caused by the glass fire, the 10th most destructive fire in the state's history. Last month, more than 67,000 acres were destroyed in Napa and Sonoma, with the vast majority of land damaged in Napa County. Leah visited the area where the Foothills Seventh-day Adventist School and Haven Seventh-day Adventist Church operated ACS centers are located. As for the elementary school, the upper half and front of the property was destroyed. Trees near the school shielded the back and lower half of the property from the flames. The Oregon and California fires are not the only disasters ACS has addressed in the last 2 months. Relief and assistance have also been needed in other regions of the U.S. Florida Conference, ACS, activated warehouse distribution operations in Pensacola in the face of Hurricane Sally, which affected the state's panhandle. In addition, ACS has been on alert as needs are assessed in Louisiana as a result of Hurricane Delta. ACS is also continuing its wide-scale food distribution by sending 4 53-foot trailers full of food to centers in Washington, D.C., Baltimore, Maryland, Manhattan, New York, and Jacksonville, Florida, in partnership with DOT Foods Delivery Service.
During the 2020 Annual Council, Adventist leaders were updated about the General Conference session, which was rescheduled for 2021.
On March 19, the leadership of the Adventist Church announced the postponement of the 2020 General Conference session due to the rapid and unpredictable spread of the COVID-19 pandemic. The 2021 General Conference session will be held in Indianapolis in the U.S. state of Indiana and is scheduled to take place between May 20th through May 25th.
Monday's presentation by the meeting planner for the General Conference, Sherry Clemmer, and associate meeting planner, Sylvia Cicalo, focused on how to provide a safe event for 2021 in light of the restrictions due to COVID-19.
Although there have been challenges in trying to accommodate more than 2,000 delegates, provisions are being made to ensure this event will comply with government restrictions and ensure all members will be safe.
All seating has been rearranged in the Lucas Oil Stadium so that patrons are 6 feet apart. Face masks will be mandatory and frequent hand washing and sanitizing will be encouraged throughout the event. Detailed drawings of each room have been submitted to the Health Department in Indiana for review.
Delegates will still have access to field level seating during business sessions, while seating allocated in the 200 level stadium is reserved for spouses or dependent family members. Families can join delegates on field level seating during worships.
Over the next few months, surveys will be sent to each delegate in order to determine how many are able to attend. Session planners will also monitor progress on potential COVID-19 vaccines, travel restrictions, and visas.
President of the Global Adventist Church, Ted M.C. Wilson, shared that While there is no current provision in the Constitution and bylaws that will allow the session to be held electronically, he is hopeful that this will be one of the first proposals made and voted on at the General Conference session.
For more updates on the General Conference session and more stories from the 2020 Annual Council, visit adventist.news.
Coming up, we sit down with senior scientist for the Geoscience Research Institute, Timothy Standish, to talk about this year's Creation Sabbath.
We'll be right back after the break.
Are you feeling tired, exhausted, stressed out? I'm not. Maybe you should consider working less and trying Sabathrist.
If you're angry, depressed, or wondering if your boss is Satan, try Sabathrist today. Side effects may include peace of mind, losing your job, or in some rare cases, persecution.
Ask your pastor if Sabathrist and Creation Sabbath are right for you.
Welcome back.
Every year, the Seventh-day Adventist Church sets aside the fourth Sabbath in October to recognize the importance and beauty of God's creation.
The Geoscience Research Institute, or GRI, provides numerous resources for members, pastors, and churches who want to join Adventists around the world in celebrating God's handiwork.
We sat down with senior scientist for GRI, Timothy Standish, to talk about why Creation Sabbath is so important and where you can go to download these important resources.
Hi, Timothy. I'm here with Dr. Timothy Standish, who is a researcher or lead researcher at the GRI Institute at Loma Linda, California, and we are here to talk about Creation Sabbath. Tim, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. It's my pleasure.
Why did the Adventist Church want to set aside a special Sabbath to recognize creation?
You know, there's a complex answer and there's a simple one. I'll give you the simple one first, which is we're Christians. And Christians worship the Creator God who is revealed in Scripture and in His creation. We also are Adventists. That means that we anticipate the second advent of Jesus Christ. And when we look at the news that the Bible gives to those of us who are Christians, at the end of time, we see that there is a special message there about worshiping the Creator. I'm specifically talking about what's called the first angel's message. It tells us that God's judgment is coming. God's judgment involves several things, but the execution of that judgment, interestingly enough, is a new creation. It calls on it. This first angel's message, this everlasting gospel, tells us exactly what we should be doing with the approach or the carrying out of this judgment. And that is, worship Him who made heaven and earth, the sea and the fountains of waters. So, as Adventists, this is what we're called to do.
Tim, every year, you and our friends at GRI, you create a new resource or a new video. Can you tell us a little bit about this year's video? It's about birds.
Sure, it's called God's Enduring Song of Love this year, and it comes from something that probably many people have seen, which is a phenomenon called murmuration. Birds, certain kinds of birds, like grackles, for example, they all come together as the sun goes down, and they put on these magnificent displays where they all fly together in unison. But we wanted to bring out this as a spiritual analogy, I guess. Mm-hmm. Not just encouraging people to see the beauty, the complexity, the glory of what's going on, but to remind ourselves, hey, you know what? Magnificent as this is, God values us more than these amazing creatures, even more than that. So that's why we decided to concentrate on it. We designed these films to be shared on social media. I hope that many people will choose to do that. We also designed them to be viewed in church.
Tim, one of the things I love is that on your website, which is creationsabbath.net, and we will make sure that that's put here. Can you talk a little bit more about where people can find this information, what your hope is, how they use it, and is there a place that maybe like a hashtag? I've heard rumor of a hashtag too that people can use it.
Yes, exactly. I mean, we encourage people to use the hashtag Creation Sabbath, just one word, so hashtag Creation Sabbath, and to as you share what you've chosen to do on Creation Sabbath, or just something beautiful from the creation. As far as the web page is concerned, we've got things like posters that can be used by churches, bulletin inserts that can be used by churches. We've got a whole bunch of graphics that people can use to share on social media or on their web pages, those sorts of things. And we have a fabulous collection of short little clips that can be shared via social media as well. But we've also got resources, for example, at the GRI website, which is grisda.org. And there's another resource that I really like to draw your attention to. It's called the John 10:10 Project. We have approaching 100 in short videos, less than 10-minute sort of films, about creation, about the reliability of Scripture, about the Christian experiences that people have had.
Tim, your enthusiasm and passion for Creation Sabbath is always contagious. So I really hope that we have inspired our members and viewers to go and watch and participate this Sabbath in Creation Sabbath. It's coming right up, right?
That's right. It is the fourth Sabbath of every October.
Every single October.
Every single October. So October 24 this year, that's this coming Sabbath. But that means that you can figure it out for 100 years from now if necessary.
Yes. It's never too late.
We'll be celebrating it in heaven.
Yes. And we're never too early to start planning also for 2021.
That's correct. Yes.
Well, Tim, thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you so much for being here.
God bless you.
You too.
Coming up, Elizabeth Henry is here with This Week in Adventist History.
But up next, Adventist Mission shares about a young woman who joined the 1 year in mission team in Chile.
We may look, pray, read, think, worship, sing, and share differently, but we all look forward to the Sabbath, and we all look forward to the future when Jesus will come again. With this message in mind, we arrived at a core component for a new identity system, the creation grid. Regardless of what or where you are designing, you can always find information to help you communicate that we are all Seventh-day Adventists.
Welcome back.
Jenny Coleman was looking for ways to serve in the mission field right when she started university.
Then she felt God calling her to Chile to serve with the 1 year in mission team.
Adventist Mission has more.
I wanted to serve in the mission field from the time I started university, but for some reason, I think I'm beginning to understand now the way this year has gone. This has been my opportunity to work with 1 year in mission here. The program didn't exist when I started university in the States, but I always felt that I needed to finish my program there first. So I think God was asking me to wait for this time to serve here with the 1 year in mission team. Ultimately, I started thinking in earnest about serving after my 3rd year of university. So I started speaking with my professor. I worked for the professor of New Testament who is Chilean, and he told me about this project. It's a closed call. They choose recommended people. Not everyone can apply. And so I received the call and prayed for about a year, and here I am. I have a wide range of responsibilities here. I am here primarily as an English teacher and also to work in youth evangelism and with the church when possible. I teach English classes in the Misión Central. I also teach an English workshop for parents in the Adventist school here. I support the English classes as a resource for the students. There is an English teacher here in the Adventist school, but I am his assistant, more or less. I work with Pathfinders, and I also work with the 1 Year in Mission volunteers in various outreach activities in the community. And here in the Espacio Nuevo Tiempo, the Center of Influence, I teach English classes here and support other activities. I'm originally from Maryland. My father is a pastor in the Chesapeake Conference, so that's where I hail from. And it's been interesting adapting to the culture here. I love it. It's great. It's extremely open, extremely caring. But again, because Chile is a more modernized country, this isn't the mission experience that a lot of people expect from short-term mission trips to Central America, per se. It's more modernized, more secularized. People are not immediately open to sharing directly about faith. The majority of the population lives in the cities here. So there's a lot of indirect evangelism that happens. And of course, the people are very friendly, very accepting, but they also take some convincing. So you have to work around the question of, are they accepting what I'm saying simply because they're trying to be polite because this is the culture, or are we really making a connection here? So that's the struggle. That's what we have to learn to do evangelism cross-culturally. I spoke a little bit of Spanish before I arrived. I had the foundation, at least from having studied before, but it is a completely new experience to speak Spanish in a country where it is the native language, because we don't realize when we speak English or our own language how much slang we use, how many sayings, how many phrases we have. We don't realize how quickly we ourselves speak. So when we enter another culture, we try to learn that language. It's completely different. Book knowledge doesn't cover everything. It took me about 2 months, even speaking a little Spanish the whole time, to become conversationally fluent. At this point, I am capable of improvisation, capable of preaching in Spanish also, but it hasn't been easy. You wander around a lot of time feeling a little lost, not knowing exactly what all is going on every moment. But the people here are very patient, and it means so much in another culture when you honestly make the effort to communicate with people. One of the things that I've made a point to do, and that I would recommend for anyone serving in a foreign country, is not to speak your own language to an extreme in front of everyone. Not to go out of your way to speak English. There are English speakers in the high school where I work, but I speak to them in Spanish when I can. It makes a huge difference in developing the relationships with people. It's incredible because I feel like it is preparing me better for a life in ministry, which is what I studied for, which is what I trained for. One of the reasons I came here was to work directly with the church, to work directly with an administration that is actively involved in outreach ministries in the community, and to learn from that and to study from that. So I am working directly with several different pastors here. I have a lot of mentors, so to speak. I'm learning how to use different methods of ministry, and also it's an incredible blessing to be able to be in ministry and to have a second language.
Watch this and other mission stories online by visiting adventistmission.org. Then click on the videos at the top.
And finally, for today's episode, let's turn to Elizabeth Henry for a look at Adventist history.
Today, you can hear Radio Lyra all over the world, but this week we hear of its humble beginnings in Costa Rica.
Welcome to This Week in Adventist History. Radio Lyra, a nonprofit organization in Costa Rica, started as a collaboration project called Club Radio between students and professors at the Universidad Adventista de Centroamérica, then known as Centro Adventista de Estudios Superiores, in a space that was previously a bathroom of the men's dorm. In 1983, through the financial support of the Boscom family, a frequency was purchased at 1,540 kilohertz. Though this frequency was only heard on a 10-block radius from its broadcast location, the efforts of Radio Lyra did not go unnoticed. In February 1983, the Inter-American Division voted to make a $30,000 appropriation to Radio Lyra, and in September 1983, Radio Lyra broadcasted for the first time. The following month, on October 20, 1983, Noel Rialoba was appointed the director at a board of directors meeting of the Costa Rican mission. Radio Lyra had a variety of programs from the beginning, including The Voice of Hope, Opening the Doors of Understanding, Sharing Life, School of Life, and Lift Your Eyes, all of which were produced at Radio Lyra except for The Voice of Hope, under the direction of Noel Rialoba and Ruben Garcia Talk. Some of the first radio operators were Moises Lipiluzzi, Pablo Hunton, Alicia Rivas, Rosaura Barantes, Eduardo Gonzalez, Marta Flor, and Doria Alvarez. Since May 1986, it has been possible to catch Radio Lyra's broadcast around the world. Simians have been captured in Honduras, Mexico, Cuba, Dominican Republic, United States, Canada, Colombia, Ecuador, Germany, Australia, Denmark, France, Holland, Italy, Sweden, Switzerland, and India. Today, it is possible to hear its broadcast from anywhere via internet. To find out more about Radio Lyra and many other Adventist institutions, please visit the Encyclopedia of Seventh-day Adventists online, encyclopedia.adventist.org. This has been a look at This Week in Adventist History.
Thanks for watching ANN. Join us next week for more news from the headquarters of the Seventh-day Adventist Church.
We'd love to hear from you, so send us your feedback and tell us how your church is making a difference in its community.
Be sure to capture plenty of video footage and photos, then write up a summary of the event's important details. And feel free to send full video reports as well.
You can reach us by sending an email to annvideo11@gmail.com.
Before we say goodbye, here's some good news from the book of Colossians, chapter 1, verses 9 and 10.
The passage says, "For this reason, since the day we heard about you, we have not stopped praying for you. We continually ask God to fill you with the knowledge of his will through all the wisdom and understanding that the Spirit gives, so that you may live a life worthy of the Lord and please him in every way."
Amen and amen. That's our program for this week. Remember, you can always visit adventist.news for daily news and videos. Until next time, God bless.
Take care.